VO Radio would like to know, are you a fan of YouTube? Introducing VO Radio Live Tubies.
When I wake up every day, I get on YouTube and check the front page. I scroll, and what do I see? Oh, what a surprise.
Be sure to send your email to ask@voradioonline.com. Now it's time for this week's VO Tubi on VO Radio and YouTube.
All right, everybody. Welcome aboard the next installment of VO Tubi.
Woo!
Yeah, finally we're back in action again. Had a little bit of a technical problem a couple weeks in a row there. We had a power outage that fried a couple of our power supplies, but they claimed there was no surge. It was just an outage. Well, I don't think so. So we'll see what the legal team says about getting recovered my $3,000 worth of replacement gear. But anyways, we're glad to be back with you. Hey, I want to tell you, by the way, we're simulcasting again today over the the VO Radio platform, as well as through YouTube. And starting Monday, we'll be feeding our YouTube live stream into the VO Tubi page on the website. So you'll be able to just go to the website. You'll be able to watch the video right there and switch over and listen to the show, whichever you prefer, the 24/7 broadcast, or watch the Tubi, whatever you want, right on the VORadioOnline.com website. So big news coming up. Listen for the promos coming out real soon about that. So I got a couple of panelists joining me. We got, of course, Stacey Barrow of Top of Mind. Stacey, welcome and thank you for being part of the team today.
Good morning.
Always loyal. And of course, the other always loyal co-pilot is Bev Standing. Bev Standing has been a serious loyal advocate like Deb Monroe and a few of us others out there. So Bev, thank you and welcome. You surprised us. We're glad to have you on board today.
Thank you. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. Anything can happen on a Friday.
You know it can. TGIF. You know what? And thank you goes out to all of our sponsors. And of course, they've been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank the VoiceOver Extra, Vorg, the VoiceOver Collective, and of course, Nava. And soon we're going to hear more about Kava soon. So keep your ears tuned about their participation soon. Meanwhile, we got a special guest coming up joining us for the first block here. And who knows if he decides to stick around or not. Eric Cifuentes, if I said that correctly.
Yeah,
Eric
you did.
Cifuentes. He said twice. He's going to be joining us in just a few minutes here, as soon as I can let him in. And we're going to get him to become part of the show today. And I'm excited about having him in because Stacey's been talking him up for quite a couple weeks now. So she's excited about having him in. We're all excited about having him in. I want to remind you quickly before we get rolling that you can contact us via email using the app icon. Use the info icon and then click on it on the app and then goes to the email icon. You can send us an email that way. You can do it the old-fashioned way. Send it through to ask@voradioonline.com. Yes, we do monitor these. And you can even zoom in either via video or via call by listening and looking and watching and all that fun stuff through the website by going to the Let's Talk VO page or go to the Live Tubies page and use the information on both of those pages, and you can actually be part of the broadcast, asking your question, participating in the open mic conversation we have, and all that fun stuff. So you can interact with us live. We're streaming over YouTube video-wise and over the VO Radio platform as a broadcast. So with that said, I think we're going to get going and welcome our first guest.
Thanks for listening to VO Radio, internet radio for the voiceover community. VO Radio takes you up close and personal with some of the leading experts, trainers, coaches, and gurus within the voiceover industry. Now it's time for this week's VIP guest here on Let's Talk Live and VO Radio.
You know, and I said the magic word there, guru. Eric, are you a guru?
I'm more of a goo-goo than a guru.
Well, we're gagas over here.
Goo gagas.
Goo
Hey.
gaga.
So if you're just joining us again, you're running late getting in. Our VIP guest today is Eric Cifuentes. And Eric, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everyone. Good
Hey,
morning, or wherever you may be.
whatever you are, right? Give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us about yourself, where you came from, where you grew up, and all that fun early childhood stuff before we get into the heavy duty
You
questions.
know, the stuff you normally talk about in therapy, all that. Just let it out, Eric.
All right. Uh, well, I was born in Colombia, in Bogota, and I moved to LA when I was, I believe, 5 years old. I'm still not quite sure on the date. And yeah, grew up in LA. I live in New York now, where my wife is from. Um, yeah, I could go from there, but that's where I'm from.
You know, Eric, I have to say, how I met Eric Cifuentes, he was one of a handful of my first virtual coffees from LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
And you were so nice. And you just took the time and I could tell like it made such an impression on me that um you know that you didn't take the time all the time to do such things, and you really carved out a moment in time, and you were very patient, and you really wanted to know how could you help me. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I've just, had your name on my radar all these years. And I feel like that was about 3 years ago or so. And I was a little over, I've been doing this, working into my fifth year now. And you were just so kind and so helpful. And that's one of the things that make me want to pay it forward and take the time with people, because there are people like you who did that for me. Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough out there in the VO world, and um, when people are starting off. I teach a lot of classes, and I try to be as honest as possible with people about the reality of getting work or doing this part-time,
Hmm.
full-time, or it's a lot of eager people that take intro classes, and I don't think they quite have a handle on the reality of it. I mean, it's exciting and it's cool, and I like to nurture that, but also give people the reality of what's happening. So I like to help people out as they're starting out as much as possible, because there's resources out there, but it's I found it more helpful to get in with a community, get to know people, instead of
Hmm.
blindly searching for it on the internet.
And you know what? I also remember the advice that you gave me too. You said, I think, I think if I remember correctly, and this is totally, retrieving from my memory bank, um, that you normally work with agents and things like that. Is that correct? You did, and that, and I had the wonderful answer of, oh, well, do you ever work with, non-union? And you said sometimes we try to work with people who are newer or this or that, but you gave the video game example and how sometimes some newer people maybe couldn't. You tried a few projects and they couldn't handle maybe the pressure of what was involved, because if they weren't ready for it in their journey, for all that was involved, something like that. I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 24 years now. I'm friends with a lot of voice actors. Um, and I mean, I've done a ton of non-union work. I started off doing non-union stuff, and um, I worked at a place with a casting director, and you know, in LA, it was about the usual suspects was a group about 30, maybe 40 actors, and they did everything. So
Hmm.
clients would sometimes, they say, okay, these people are great, but we want new voices, new people. So we would try certain folks out, and depending on their training and how much their commitment, sometimes it worked out, but sometimes it didn't. And also just depending on the demands of the game or the client or the
Hmm.
project. Sometimes people get put through the ringer,
Hmm.
largely due to, well, the director and the clients and the budget. sometimes new people can't go quick. You know, they just can't catch on as quickly. As a director, I've worked with new people too, and it's tough. I mean, the worst is, you know, where I'm throwing everything in, everything I got, possibly, and then the reads just stink. And I'm like, and then I'm like, it's on me. I
Right.
feel really responsible
Mhm.
because I'm like, I'm trying everything. Okay, try it this way, try it that way, and it's just flat or it's just not hitting. Um, and so, yeah, what I tell people is, you know, you gotta be ready to go. You can't just jump in. Sometimes there's projects that are easier, video game stuff where maybe you're doing NPCs, background characters, where it's not as taxing or demanding.
Mhm.
But oftentimes I find that people that have a harder time at the beginning don't have a acting background. So
Right.
over the years, just my number one piece of advice for people that go into VO that haven't studied theater or acting is just get into acting. It's all acting.
Mhm.
It's not this, you know, magic weird.
Yeah, I think a lot of people take that for
Understand.
granted. They take for granted that you have to be able to be a performer. They think voice work is just simply sitting in front of the microphone and using your voice, and that's it. You have
Yeah,
to be
or
able to
funny
act. You have to be able to
voices.
perform. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the
Mhm.
biggest misconceptions. I know we've had quite a few emails over the last couple of years now come in saying, what does it take to really get into the business? Anybody can go to Amazon or go to Sweetwater, go to a musician friend and buy a microphone and set up a small recording area. And even
Mhm.
as a non-union talent, work out of their small little area they set up, the rig they set up. But they don't understand that aside from the training and all the stuff that comes with that, you have to have that natural ability to act and you have to be able to perform. You have to be able to improvise, like Rebecca Hall teaches quite a bit. You have to be able to take that extra step. Have you run into a lot of times working with newer and or even in veteran talent where you're midstream into the session and you're thinking to yourself, your client's going, oh boy, they can't take direction. This is going to work out. And if that's the case, how did you gracefully end the session and say, I don't think
Mhm.
they're right for the gig? Have you ever run into that? I have. Have you ever run into that?
I have, yeah. Um, I'm always on the side of the actor.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how big the client is or the stakes. And, you know, even if it's going well, oftentimes performers are there just sitting there naked in front of a mic, you know, very vulnerable, very
What
nervous.
kind of
Even when it's
productions
going,
do you do, Eric?
I've done them
Is
Just
there a lot
all.
of
saying.
moaning and groaning in those?
We haven't worked together yet, but I need to prepare, apparently.
You know, it's just a very vulnerable space, and yeah, even when it's going well, people are very nervous, you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
sweaty oftentimes. You know, you go in, hey, this is awesome. Oh my God, you're pouring sweat. You know, are you okay?
Right.
So yeah, so I'm very aware of that for performers and the times that it hasn't worked out. I'm just thinking of the most recent time. It was just in the casting. It just wasn't done right, and the person wasn't really. This was the lead role of an animation series. Um, the performer did what she could, and she was doing great. She was doing everything she could, but it just wasn't what was
Yeah.
needed.
Right.
Mhm.
So, you know, we tried it. Luckily, it wasn't too downstream. We caught it early on, and just had a brief aside with the client, and um, I just let her know, you know, I don't, it has nothing to do with you. It's just it's not fitting. It's not working out, and it was
Right.
a long commitment too. So,
And
um,
this is a business, and people have to understand
yeah.
that sometimes it just doesn't. You get in the session and it doesn't work, just like you do on camera. You get on set and it just isn't working out. And they recast. Bottom line is, so I know Stacy has made it clear to us that you're bilingual, obviously. So do you cast and direct mostly Spanish projects, or both, or what would you say is the ratio that you work in?
Mostly English. I'd say it's like 80/20.
Mhm.
Um, dude. Spanish stuff as well, but mostly English.
Now, did you
Do you,
start out as a voice actor and work your way into it, or did you go the other way, the cart before the horse kind of thing?
I started off as a audio engineer, so a recording
Oh,
engineer. Yeah, I went to school for recording arts at Loyola Marymount.
awesome.
Yeah, it started off at a children's audiobook studio. Um,
hmm,
it's a Korean company that taught Korean kids how to speak English. So I got
Wow.
into children's voices really, and got to meet people that worked in other areas, dubbing and video games. But yeah, mainly focused on adults that did children's voices and also child actors.
one takeaway that I have from all that you're saying too, not to discourage those of you who are just starting out there or maybe don't have experience, during doing certain projects. People are willing to take a gamble on you, but are you ready? That's the thing. So
Mm,
that's where all the training and education and like we talked about the acting classes, why all that is so important to always be preparing your foundation. So should such connection and opportunity arise, that you're ready for it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I look into in casting too with newer people is if I know they've done theater, I have a really good base, you know. They've read copy, they can lift the words off the page. If they haven't and we're taking a chance and it's a smaller role, then what classes have you taken? Have you done improv? Have you done scene study? And not just VO classes, like, oh, a demo thing or a voice thing. It's like, okay, cool. But, the work for the acting, like, the last class that I taught, I was like, do community theater, just get in there. Like,
right.
a
Dive
scene, you're
in.
playing a character, make it good, make it real, and that's voice acting is just in front of a mic, but yeah,
Right.
it's just storytelling.
And before we give like Bev and Steve a chance to ask you something, it's kind of funny. Like I actually remember a lot of our conversation. But one thing, I got to actually audition for something with you, and that was quite a while ago, early on. And one really important piece of information that you gave me was about my voice print.
Mm,
Uh, and uh, you didn't say it quite like that, but you said, "Oh, and this was so cool that you gave me the feedback." And we didn't end up working together on this, but you said, like your voice print's good and all that, in a couple scenarios, because this young girl was in different scenarios. You sounded so different in this particular scenario that if I were the listener, I wouldn't necessarily know that was the same character or person.
Mm.
And so how important it is to be consistent with a voice print throughout the character that you're being, unless you're changing characters or whatever, but so they can identify that that's you. And yeah, I always think of that when I'm doing something.
let me throw this at Sia just texted actually asking, what is a voice print? So you want to elaborate on that, Stacy, before I hand it off to Eric? What is a voice print? She wants to know. Good. Thank
Um,
you, Sia.
if you're a 20-year-old, if you're an older woman, whatever, whoever you are, even if you're a character, let's say you're a little old lady in an animation or something, you need to carry that voice throughout the whole thing, so from the beginning to the end, you can sound like Eunice Wilhelmina Cadbury. And then all of a sudden you don't start talking, they'll be like, who's that one? So your voice style, your pitch, your voice, all of those nuances that you're doing to sound like that person, even if it's natural for you, whatever, that you still carry those throughout and be consistent throughout the whole piece or
Nice.
commercial or animation. So they don't think it's another character
Right.
or what
Staying
have
in
you.
character, in essence, is he is what I think you're hearing here. Having the ability to stay in character, and from episode to episode, the big that I run into. Eric, you run into that a lot when people are doing a character for an audition. They create that character in that moment, and then 6 weeks later, when they get a call back, they have to go back to that file and try to replicate their own character they created because they haven't been able to retain that character. Do you find, I do often, do you find that is the case that people come back when it's greenlit, the project goes to a MIP or whatever and gets greenlit. And then 6 months later, we go into the actual project and we go through the cast. And all of a sudden we contact everybody and they can't go back in that character the same, which is what the client wanted. Do you run into that a lot with people? Voice print, as Stacy might have said it's called?
Oh yeah, yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's another thing with casting that sometimes happens is the audition is really great,
Yeah.
but the person can't replicate it.
Right.
So depending on the stakes of the project, I try to cast having heard a solid minute of that voice print, her voice, to know how consistent it can be. And luckily for me, I have the audio engineer ears to know if
That's right.
something's been pitched up or muddled with.
Yeah, mechanically, yeah.
Yeah, to know if it's working. And then once they come in, we always do a little read through before starting to get that voice print. And what we do in recordings oftentimes is we get what we call a hero line, or where it just really shines and sounds great, and that's the character when they said that thing. So I have the engineer save that, and then throughout the project we play it back to dial us back in. Because what happens with voice prints is you're going through many different emotions. So the example you gave, Stacy, is how does that old lady sound when she gets really excited, when she shouts? The pitch might go up. When she's really tired, really slow, really sad, then it might go down. So let's say the voice print is here in this box. You can go a little bit outside in pitch and tone, depending on the emotions, but not so outside of it where suddenly it's a different character, a different person. So the consistency within the ranges of emotions that character has in the particular story, you have to stay consistent. And it happens with me all the time where you're in it and the acting's great and it's awesome, and you're really sliding off the voice print. And then you play it back and you're like, oh shit, okay, this is sounding like someone else. And also what happens too is that sometimes you slide into a good place that's different from the original. So then you get another hero line because it's working. So why futz with it? It's the acting. For me, it's always like the acting's great, storytelling's awesome.
Right.
There's no sense to going back to something that's forced or
awesome.
And then I have to talk to the client and say, listen, let's say it's a kid's voice, like she or he is sounding a little older, but it's awesome. So who cares? Or it's fine, it fits.
Right.
It doesn't have to sound like, now it sounds like an 8 to 10-year-old and the character's 5. Oh well, like it's okay. Right. They're still cute. Because that actor was straining to sound younger. And they naturally slide into something that's
right. Hey, if you're just joining us, our guest right at this during this block is Eric Cifuentes. I can never say that without having to think it over. Eric Cifuentes, casting director, audio engineer, producer, and all that guru stuff. And if you want to contact, you can zoom in, call, and or email, or you can text like Sia just did. Anything you have on your mind for the rest of the show as well. And we want to welcome Xavier Paul, one of our contributors here at VO Radio. He's joined in. Steve Ward has joined in. And I got one other comment before I'm going to have Bev give us, I know she's biting at the bit to ask a question. I can relate to what we're saying about slipping out of character, the voice print. And that is, if you ever go to the early Homer Simpson episodes of The Simpsons, back when it was Simpsons and Itchy and Scratchy on the Tracy Ullman show in the late 80s when Fox was just getting ready to kick in, right? If you ever go back and listen to when they picked it up and made The Simpsons their own freestanding series, Dan's early Homer was like, hey, boy. He was way up there. He was up in more of a baritone tenor range. And as that character developed and evolved, he went down to here, Marge. He went down. He chopped his voice way down like you were talking about. So any listeners or tubers watching, if you want to know what that's slipping out of character or evolving the character, having time to develop the character is all about, listen to some of those early Homer Simpsons compared to the current last 10 years of Homer, and you'll hear what we're talking about basically. Bev, I know you got a question you got to have for Eric here.
Hi, Eric. It's lovely to meet you. I don't know you, and that's rare to say for me because I know so many people. But I have a question that I think the listeners may want to know, and that's the point of you said kids' voices, adults sounding like children. I know when I was studying acting that my acting coach said to me more and more people, and this is a few years back, but more and more people are hiring kids because of technology and the authenticity of a child's voice. Is that still the case in voiceover? Or is it still okay to sound like an infant or a 5-year-old?
As an adult, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with time and money. So children are a lot more expensive and they take longer to record. So oftentimes clients will say, we only want kids, adults sound fake. Like, no problem. What's your budget? Because their labor laws, it takes longer. So what's your timeline? We can find great kids, but it's also more expensive. So non-union kids are harder to find that are talented. You know, they're kids, they're just starting out, they're learning. So the recording itself takes longer, which is more expensive. The rates are
Yep.
what they are.
Right.
But it takes longer. More takes, more directing, more getting the child performer comfortable. But they also have to take breaks, study. You know, the labor laws are such where they have to, depending on how long they're booked for. If it's during school hours, they have to have a studio teacher.
Right. Yep.
Or guardian to give them their lessons for the day.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the answer to that question always has to do with time and money. So more and more adults do it because it's more budget friendly, it's faster, it's easier really to get through it. But if you want the real deal, and there is a big difference, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and she watches PBS Kids a lot, and I could just tell right away. It's like, oh, cool, this is a cast of kids, and then it's fun to listen to. How good they are. They're still a little flat, but it works because it's a kid. You know,
Right.
you can just tell right away, and you know, tons of adults work animation, obviously, and you know, depending again on what it is, if they're playing children or if they're playing animals, when it's that, it can be a little looser. And dubbing, if it's live action dubbing for a child, it's got to be really, really good, or else it just the actual kid on screen voiced by an adult that sounds like a kid, it makes the dubbing seem more obvious. It's obviously that's not the voice coming out of that human child.
Good question, Bev.
Great answer.
Good
Thank
question.
you.
Hey, we got about 2 minutes left. Go for it. Got to wrap up a couple minutes, go to our next block. What do you think, Bev?
Very, very quickly, from the casting point of view, from submitting auditions, I hear so many conflicting stories. Don't do anything to your audition. Just, bring the breaths down, make them a little shorter. Don't get fancy with them. Right up to, oh no, decorate your auditions so they are letter perfect for an engineer. And then when you do the job, you send them the raw file. It's like, so when you're doing your audition, how much do you need to do to an audition these days?
So what do you mean as far as like technical or performance wise?
Technical, not performance. You've addressed the performance. Look at everything else. It's like take your acting, being able to perform. But now I'm submitting audio. Do I really? I can't even. I'm so not. They know me. I'm so not. I know what to do, but I don't have words for it.
Yeah.
How raw do you want it? You want it more polished, or is raw how like somebody like you would prefer it?
I always say just focus on the performance. You're not an engineer. Get a really good audition. Don't have anything that's distracting, noisy background, buzzing. But as far as like levels, like make sure it's loud enough to hear. If you can normalize or bring it up to a standard level, do that. But people get way too in the woods with this. You know, people ask me like, "Oh, how should I compress this?" I'm like, "No, do not like that's a compression. Like professional engineers like don't understand compression, so don't even bother with that." And it's just a lot to ask for people, even during COVID when people were engineering. I mean, still with people's home studios, but during COVID, every actor became an engineer, and we were just asking so
Right.
much of them that we're not hiring you to be an engineer. Like, you know, just
Nice,
yeah.
clean,
My
dry
advice is just
track.
the bare minimum within, you know, sounding professional. I mean, auditions on an iPhone sound great to me. As long
Okay.
as you're not, you know, in the bathroom or have the
Right.
dishwasher running right next to you.
Or in the kitchen with the dog
Um,
working. Yeah.
yeah, so
What
I
about
wouldn't worry
breaths?
too much about that. Like deleting breaths and things like that. Like that's part of performance. Like unless you have a
As long as
really
you're not too
unnatural,
distracting, right? So,
Right.
yeah, just get in there and get a real kick-ass audition and performance. And if it sounds good out of your phone, engineers, I could say a lot about this. Like engineers often get in the way of projects, and they'll even give you advice or do this, that, and the other. It's neither here nor there. Like it's a very techie thing. It just has to sound good, professional, but all the bells and whistles, that's not your job. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Thank you
Hey
for
man,
that.
fantastic having you with us. You've been listening to the VO2B guest Eric Cifuentes, and Eric, how can they reach out and connect with you if they wanted to contact you?
Yeah, through my LinkedIn is the best way. Oh, I forgot to mention, I mentioned it on my thing that for anyone listening, I don't know how we would go about it. I can offer a consultation like we did with Stacy, or even a listen
Yep.
to your demo. So that was my giveaway. So I don't know if it's too late.
Thank
No, go
Uh,
for
you.
it.
It's never too late.
okay, great. Um, so yeah, through my LinkedIn, I can put it in the chat if that helps. But you can, not too many Eric
sure they
Cifuentes that
can
do
see the
VO.
chat.
No, they
Oh
can't. They
yeah,
want to
they
be
can't
to
see
our
the chat.
broadcast. They
The
don't. We
link,
keep that.
Eric Cifuentes on
Yep.
Yeah, you
LinkedIn.
can
That should.
easily find searchable. And
I
I am
just
teaching.
connected with you, so please accept my
Oh,
friend.
awesome. I will. You're in.
Yay.
Uh, I'm teaching a
Free
video game.
consultation, Bev.
Yeah, a video game intro class here in New York, but it's through Zoom. So I want to plug that too. It's May 20th, Intro to Video Game VO.
Awesome.
It's a lot of
Nice.
fun. So check that out. I'll post it
Fantastic.
on my LinkedIn as well.
Either way,
Okay.
and to recap, the best way to reach out for any of that is through your LinkedIn profile on the
Yeah,
web.
that's the best way. Most of my VO contacts are on there, so I repost castings and positions hiring for engineering or many things VO.
Cool.
But yeah,
Awesome.
that's the best way to reach me.
Awesome.
Eric, can I ask you to make a certain kind of workshop?
Sure.
Can you create a workshop for, working VO that I just really want to polish my battle efforts and
Oh,
all kinds of things because, to broaden my horizons with all different kinds, like maybe jumping versus something else, or, getting impaled versus hitting, or,
You mean Walla, whatever? Yeah.
uh-huh,
Oh, it's
yeah.
not
those
just
efforts.
jumping, it's jumping off how high a thing onto what might
Right,
Right.
right. The extra stuff, more involved efforts,
Yeah, the efforts. Yeah, great. I teach that in the Intro to VO class. So yeah, video game efforts are fun. How to get killed in many different ways, shot
Yeah,
at.
yeah. You know that.
It's fun. It's
Cool.
physical. In the classes, I say, okay, you shot in the shoulder, shot in the gut, shot in the head, shot in
Right.
the mouth. What would that sound like? Shot in the.
Okay, I'm there.
It's a very physical body thing, so it's fun.
All right, great. Well, thanks, Eric. Appreciate you being on, my friend. And you want to text us, you can do so by using the old-fashioned text 970-682-3424. And or you can Zoom in, call in, and you can also email us. So we're going to take a quick break. I have a couple of people already ask, when is that, who's that voice? It's coming up in just a few minutes, so stick around. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a minute. Don't go nowhere.
VO Radio would like to know, are you a fan of YouTube? Introducing VO Radio Live Tubies.
When I wake up every day, I get on YouTube and check the front page. I scroll, and what do I see? Oh, what a surprise.
VO Tubi on VO Radio and YouTube.
Hey everybody, NAVA President Tim Friedlander here with your NAVA News Minute Update. The SAG-AFTRA interactive strike is still making progress with AI protections in video games, and NAVA was excited to host a live town hall with some of the members of the Interactive Agreement Negotiating Committee. If you want to rewatch the town hall to learn more about the video game strike, you can do so on our website at navavoices.org under the Resources tab. NAVA debuted a new Best Practices for Kids in VO page this month, which includes resources for parents and a new contract writer just for minors. And finally, we're continuing to make headway on AI legislation at the state and federal levels. Thank you to everyone for all your support. To find out more info on NAVA, visit our website at navavoices.org. Thanks a lot.
Internet radio for voiceover talent at any level.
Have you done it yet? Downloaded the new VO Radio app? If not, check out the new apps we created that are now for iPhone and Android.
I'm sorry, operator, I can't hear you. I'm trying to use the phone!
Now you can listen to VO Radio anytime, 24/7 worldwide on your phone.
Are you not entertained?
Download the new VO Radio app from our app section of the website.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Or click on the app link located on the player window, VO Radio apps. They're here for you. Download yours today.
Whether a beginner or veteran voice talent, there's something for everyone. This is VO Radio.
You've tapped the stream. This is VO Radio. Something for voiceover talent of all levels all week long.
Monday.
Let's Talk VO Live, Mondays and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Tuesday.
Encore broadcast of Let's Talk VO Live, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Live VO Tubies, Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And Saturday and Sunday all day long, 24/7 broadcast. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is VO Radio. Listen, learn, and win.
When I wake up every day, I get on YouTube and check the front page. I scroll, and what do I see? Oh, what a surprise.
Now it's time for this week's VO Tubi on VO Radio and YouTube.
All right. Welcome back to our Tubi show. And we have a full house today. Woo! It makes it so much fun to have VO conversation like this. And we've got Bev Standing, we've got Xavier Paul, Steve Ward, Anthony Reese, and our guest Eric Cifuentes. And of course, me, Stacey Barrow. Hello, hello. And it's Friday, TGIF. Woohoo! Okay, so all the different ways that you could have conversation with us too. You could text us at 970-682-3424. And again, that's 970-682-3424. You can always email us at ask@voradioonline.com. You could Zoom or call in using the information on our website. Look for our Live Tubies page. And also, don't forget about Let's Talk VO. That's our radio show we have live on Mondays and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you in like a couple days. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, The Vorg, The VoiceOver Extra, The VoiceOver Collective, and NAVA. So for now, I want to keep talking some more VO here, so let's take a listener question.
You're listening to VO Radio. The views, opinions, and insights shared are not necessarily those of other panelists, guests, and contributors on VO Radio and its broadcast programs. Advice, tips, opinions, and legal suggestions are based on industry experience of the individual co-host, panelist, guest, or contributor. These opinions and comments are not endorsed by or verified by VO Radio and its operators. Listener discretion is advised.
VO Radio, internet radio for the voiceover community.
Hi, this is Linda Bruno. Be sure to catch my podcast, the Voiceover Gurus podcast, weekends during the Weekend Power podcasts here on VO Radio. Check out the podcast section of the website for my weekend showtimes.
Internet radio for the voice artists just like you.
If you're like most voice talent today, you're wondering various things relating to your voiceover career. Well, VO Radio has your answers. Here's more questions answered by our panelists live.
Listen and learn. Internet radio for the voice artists just like you.
Okay, let's see what we got. We have Shane from Tennessee. Is using a USB mic direct better than a small mixer interface? So USB mic versus small mixer interface. I'm going to pass this one along. My answer is really short. You know what? These days, they make such great microphones, but still, it's USB. So, you know what? Hey, Xavier Paul, you there? Cadeau, Xavier Paul.
Hey,
Beep, beep.
how's everybody doing today?
Good.
And
Hi.
loud and clear. Interesting talk on microphones. I'm actually on my Sennheiser 416 today.
Sounds great.
Oh, yeah,
Can you-
sounds very nice.
Can you hear the sharpness? I think that's a great segue into the answer
It
to
was.
the question because, you get what you pay for. Well, and it's really important to find a way to just upgrade that base level of quality when it comes to your microphones. These USB mics are good for a wide variety of uses, but not necessarily auditioning for professional voiceover. There are even some podcast microphones that are good for the podcast crowd.
Right.
And Anthony, I'd like you to chime in a bit on this as well if you can, that there's a certain standard for voiceover that it's always good to have a microphone that at least needs a preamp so that you can adjust
Right.
levels and have an interface between the sound card of the computer and the software you're using.
Right. Give it a little boost, a little kick in the pants. You're absolutely right. The reality is connectivity with a USB microphone, if you have a really good quiet room, if you have a closet or a booth or some kind of a small recording area that is noise free, you can probably get away with using a USB directly into the USB input of your sound card. You then have to be able to have the ability to play with a little bit on the post side, use your software to play with just a bit, make sure you know your noise floor and all that stuff. But that's really not the way to go. It's okay for somebody starting out that doesn't have a lot of budget investing in all that stuff. The reality is having, like you said, the ability to run your microphone and an analog good quality mic into an interface that digitizes it, USBs it to your recording device. You can control the gain, like you said, the mic preamp. It gives you the ability to have multiple devices connected to it. Even nowadays, using a small little mini interface and or a little mini mixer, they're very good, affordable mini mixers that allow you to have channel 1 for mic 1, channel 2 for mic 2. You can have 2 or 3 mics connected to that little mixer. This way you can have multiple microphones. I know a lot of guys who like to actually have stereo microphones. They could have one mic and they like to have another mic, a third eye mic hanging over top, so they like 2 mics so they can work with stereo like that. But they're also, the ability to do that is control. How much control do you want? Are you willing to just have a little bit of a Scarlett Solo 1 where you can run your microphone straight into it, control the gain, play with the preamp output to your sound card, if you will, and that's it? Very entry level, but more than standard enough to get away with in the audition world. The reality is most projects you can get hired doing that kind of stuff. If you're going to be working on A-level work, you're going to be working in union gigs. they're going to want to know, tell me about your daisy chain. They're going to know what your setup is like, and they're going to even ask for a photo or video. I've run into that a lot with projects where they want to see your digs. So the reality is, like you just nailed, it really depends on your connectivity. I tell people that all the time. It depends on your connectivity. Are you going to do audio production? Are you going to do mixing? Are you going to develop auto mixes on your stuff? Or are you only going to be a voiceover talent? So you want to have that, like you said, that preamp control. I know I'm being winded a bit, but there's a lot more to it than just who was it, Shane? Just Shane, when you asked, just is it easier just to have the direct mic go right into your sound card or interface? It's kind of tomato. It really depends on you what you're planning on doing, but you're absolutely right. I would definitely highly recommend that if you're doing more than a podcast or doing more than just a small little recording setup, you want to have that ability to have at least have a preamp. So that's my 5 cents worth. What about you, Bev or Eric? What do you think? Or it's back to Xavier, whoever wants to take it.
I'd pass it to Eric because remember when I said I'm not technical? I'm all ears on this one.
Yeah, I can go on and on about this.
Right.
It depends.
Sure you could.
Right.
It depends on what it is. One anecdote I can give is that during COVID, we were working with Netflix at a studio doing dubbing, and their standards were so insane leading up to that for our deliveries, just very, very demanding in how the mixes were sent and all the specs. COVID hit, they were sending out USB mics to everybody. So we were like, what? For
What
this
happened?
like big production? Yeah, what happened to it doesn't matter. Like, we just need it to happen. Our studio, we were sending out kits with real microphones, not USB microphones, but nothing too crazy or fancy. So it depends. I would say for auditions, USB is totally fine, depending
Yep.
on the USB mic. That within the USB, there's also some that sound terrible and some that sound better.
That's right.
People that are more working and into it, friends of mine always wanted to ask me, should I get a Neumann U87? It's a $2,000 mic. I'd say no,
No.
unless you really want to, because you don't have the studio that thing could pick up everything.
Yeah, the background behind it.
Yeah, there's other microphones within Neumann that are cheaper and sound good, TLM series. If you want to get a microphone that plugs into a preamp, I always recommend Shure SM58 or SM57, $100 microphones that can do anything. 416 like Xavier had is great, and those microphones that are above $200 are often really good used. So 416 that's been used lightly and not to record explosions or heavy metal bands. Those things last for years. So I always recommend that they buy used microphones. But just like anything else, I always give also the example of cars. Like, do you need a Ferrari to go to the grocery store?
Exactly right.
That's a
We
good
just said that the other
example.
night. Yeah.
You can get
That's a
there
good-
in an 85 Honda Civic as long as it's running.
That's right. We just said that the other night. That's so funny. You must be psychic because we were just talking about that. It really depends on. Some people like to spend big bucks on a high quality Cadillac, and other people say, "Hey, you know what? My Civic takes me where I got to go for, and I saved 75 grand. Sorry." So
So
Yeah, and consider your space, like because the better the mic, the more it's gonna show how much noise there is in your house or your space. It's gonna hear the heater turning on, the
that's right.
dishwasher, gardeners outside. So it really just depends. Sometimes people spend all that money and they realize, oh no, my booth sucks.
yeah, my room noise is horrible. Absolutely right. Go ahead, Stacy. What were you starting to say?
Okay, so I'm a teenager in voiceover years and not a newbie, not an oldie. So for my street
What's
cred,
that, honey? What you say? Good
I
to hear
know.
you. Take care of my
I
age.
know,
you know.
I'm not a and I'm not an old lady either. If someone finds out and they ask me if a bigger person, and I have a, Focusrite set up with my, Scarlett Solo stuff, Is that so? That's okay for my street cred at this point, right? No one's going to judge me and be like, oh.
Just depends. For me, it just depends on the project. If they're hiring you to work inside your room, then that's one thing. If I'm hiring somebody and the production's at a certain level, I don't care how good your room is, you're coming into
They're going
the
to send you a
studio.
contract. Yeah.
Yeah, they just want you, there's more control, there's less post-production fixes. Just depends if you're doing like commercials in your room. Commercials are a lot more forgiving too, as opposed to like an audiobook
Yeah.
there where you're sitting there and it's hours and hours and hours of audio that needs to be fiddled with in post, denoised, declicked, all that. Then the client, the person has to make sure that your room sounds really, really good. Has
You know,
really
that's
low
amazing, Eric,
noise
that you just
floor.
said that, because me and Dee had that conversation. Dee Alvis is one of our contributors and on our 24/7 broadcast, and does on Monday and Wednesdays as well, or Wednesdays, I mean, on the live show. We were talking about that, I guess it was like a year ago, so had a conversation relevant to commercial work is much more forgiving because of the production value. We build sound. There's all kinds of music and sound effects and doorbells and you name it that buries some of those blemishes. If you're doing a dry voice track or something that is not going to have any kind of a build underneath it to hide those blemishes, you got to really have an impeccable sound. I can tell you, years ago, I had really high-end studio back in the day, and my partners and me had spent quite a bit of money building this nice place out. And my son and my daughter at the time, who were voice actors, PBS Kids and Disney and some other stuff they've done, we had a project coming up where my son had to be, it was impeccable, and he was auditioning with Pixar and some other guys on the same day. So they bundled it. They weren't willing to work with just my studio, even though my studio was nice. SSL was a nice studio. The reality is they still wanted me to go to what they call a approved contractor studio. So they sent me down to Boulder, to Rocky Mountain Sound or wherever it was at the time, or Boulder, I can't remember studios or where we went. But that was because of what you're saying. So a lot of people don't understand that when you get up to that A-lister level, when you get up to that high-end union quality level, like what you're saying, Shane, I think it was, right? I brought this up. Was it Shane? Yeah. You want to think about that. You can have the nicest little room, spend $3,000 or $4,000 on building out a small little rig, and have a quality kick-ass sound for the non-union world, acceptable to average mom and dad, medium-sized clientele out there. But when you're working on the big leagues and you're working in the pro level, they don't care if they don't look at your gear list and go, okay, well, he has this, he has that, he has this. Okay, we're cool. The mics are this, that. They'll even mail you out a mic and say, we prefer you to work on this mic. But Mark Grawl can vouch for this. They're going to contract you typically, and they're going to link up with that studio, and they're going to want you to go into that rental for 2 hours or whatever. So keep that in mind, people, when you're investing. Don't invest too much, because the reality is you can get away with it in the minor leagues, in the farm system, but you win it when you go to the pro level. They're going to typically either say, we want you to come fly out and spend 3 days here, or they're going to say flat out, we want you to go to so-and-so studio that's on that preferred studio approved list. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's a valuable point to expand on just a bit. So Bev, what's your experience? I know you kind of segued out of that, but what's your experience in that area? Have you run into that a lot in your voiceover work you've done?
Well,
with
I just want to
clients,
go back to the actual question was USB versus XLR.
Yeah.
I started with an XLR mic. I had a Audio-Technica 2020. I don't think they make them anymore, but it was great. At some point, I went up to a TLM 102. Then I went up to a 416 because everyone had a 416.
Right.
But I don't know that I would have booked the jobs I booked if I had a USB mic right at the very beginning.
Right.
I did get one for travel, and I found that with the 416, because I do travel, it's much more forgiving in hotel rooms and makeshift studios. But at the same time, I have a 416. I don't hear my doorbell when it rings, and I don't hear the planes that go overhead, and I'm on the flight path of one of the largest Air Force bases in the area, in the country.
Oh, wow.
But you don't hear, there's only 2 planes you'll hear, and I just say, hang on, I need water. And it's 6 seconds and it's done, right? I'm in between 2 train tracks, I hear nothing. But the point of this is I had to learn how to use a 416 versus the TLM 102 versus the Audio Technica, because if you go off mic at all, like you have to be so conscious of the mic placement. So whatever mic you get, you've got to learn how to use it. That was
well said. Well said. And I'll throw this out to you. Oh my God, this can be a whole nother VO2B next week, the whole show. The reality is, it has a lot to do with not only, like Eric was saying, the room and what Xavier ran into a few minutes ago, but it has to do with, are you working the mic intimately? Intimately. A lot of people who have small home recording environments have to work intimately on the microphone because they don't have booths. They don't have nice controlled rooms. They don't have a vacuum booth or a nice insulated room. They're in their kids' empty nester bedroom with a closet that they emptied out, and they're standing in this 3x3 booth and a box. And the reality is they have to work the mic much more intimately within 7-10 inches. You have a high quality booth, you can stand back and you can the room, there isn't as much going on, right? So that has a lot to do with the microphone. There's a whole nother conversation. Xavier and Eric might both understand small diaphragm versus large diaphragm too. That's a whole nother conversation of what's your preference, because they're much more sensitive versus not sensitive, et cetera, that whole conversation. But the reality is, absolutely, Shane, for sure, you want to experiment. I definitely would wrap up my piece of all this about experiment with microphones. The beauty about Amazon and even Sweetwater, Musician's Friend, is they let you try it out. If you don't like it, you can ship it back. Experiment with microphones, record. Jeff Sammy, who's one of my new talent that I just built a website and doing his demos, so to speak, has been in the business. He studied with Mark Grau and some others. He's been in the business quite a few years. He has gone through 2 or 3 or 4 different microphones now, and this last mic that he got was the best mic for his particular style of voice. And so you want to experiment. I remember back in the day, and I'm tanging a bit, and maybe Eric and everybody who's musically inclined can appreciate this. When I was a keyboard player back in the headbanging era, I had about 10 different synths that I toured with. And I had my Korgs, and I had my Rolands, and I had my my pianos and my Yamahas, and you name it, back in the day. But not all of them made it on stage with me. Some of them were just because certain samples I used on certain recordings in the albums. And the reality was, my keyboard rig, my keyboard tech would know what show the set list was, and he would set up my rig according to what the set list was we were doing that week on tour. And the reality was, why? Because some of those particular keyboards were like microphones. There's certain sounds. So I used to have in my studio back in the day about 12 to 15 different microphones, because there were some mics that were great for female recording. There were some great mics for male recording. There were some mics that were good for people that were not as professional. They were more amateur. When I would bring in my CEOs to do testimonials, or when I would bring in people from the colleges and universities who would ever record testimonials for automotive dealers especially. So there's something to be said about that whole conversation. I know I'm getting winded, but there is something that Bev just hit on. You can play with different microphones, because some mics you might find are better in certain settings. Is your experience, Eric, that some microphones work better in the gaming because of the higher intensity of the screamers and the yellers and all that we have to deliver over the mic, versus a commercial, which is pretty much straightforward? There's a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the way to answer the microphone question is, yeah, it depends on what you're recording, how loud you are. Certain mics can take yelling a lot better than others. Others are gonna distort or be less forgiving, like Bev was saying. Shotgun mics like the 416 are very directional. So they're used
you only have this much of a room to work.
Yeah, they're used in production. They're the boom mics, what people use. So they can be really good for negating unwanted sounds. But yeah, just for video games, we would use U87s. We would use small mics that we would attach to headsets as well. That 2 of them, one that could take a louder yell and not distort, so it was like a safety mic.
Right.
But yeah, U87 is what you find in most VO. But again, it's very expensive mic. It's not something I would recommend for home studios. There's cheaper alternatives. So it all depends on what you're doing. And if you're getting hired for your studio, then yeah, maybe you should have a better equipment and a list posted on your website. If you're just doing auditions, I've cast a union work off of iPhones, and I just needed to
Amazing.
hear the character.
Yeah, it is amazing.
So didn't matter to
It's
me.
fun.
It just depends too. Like it depends on the person, you know, like some people
Right.
get easily distracted. I'm really dialed into what it's going to sound like. I know what it's going to sound like behind a mic. So let's say it's like a low voice, a trailer guy or a monster or, you know, in a world type of guy. It's going to sound shitty on a USB or on an audition on an iPhone. But I'll listen to that person's demo, and that was recorded hopefully on a better mic, and I'll just know like he's got the bass. Like
Right.
I'm not hearing it right now, but I can tell that it's there. So it just really depends. It's a very subjective thing.
Awesome. Hey, to wrap up this block, and then go ahead and go into our final thing and the who's that voice, and we'll wrap up the show. Xavier, if you're still there, I know we kind of ran with your comment a bit. You said that's a new microphone. Did you just get that mic, or is it a mic you've been working with for a while now?
So the 416 I had sitting on my desk for about a year. I've been working with a microphone that I think more people should know about because it's been reviewed to just critical acclaim. And that's the Studio Project C100. It actually rivals the Neumann U87 without the headache. You get a lot of the benefits of the Neumann
I have
U87.
two of the Studio Project mics. Yep.
Yeah, aren't they great? They're so
They're
warm
awesome mics.
and mid-range. They're
Way
just
underrated.
exceptional. You know, and I think that goes to the moral of the story is do your research, because there are great mics out here. The Studio Project C100 is like about $279, but it's a small investment. And I've booked, so I didn't want to switch the microphone out because I had booked so many huge things on that $300 mic.
Right.
I actually had to learn. It was a bit of a learning curve. Well, at least at home with the 416, because I'm in New York City, so I've been going into studios with 416s, but this is the first time I've ever had one in my house. And there was a part of me that was thinking, well, you know what? I've got to work a little harder at my home studio because it's not like a real studio. Not really. That was my mental thing, because years before I created a home studio, I was going into these huge studios in New York.
Right.
So I was thinking, oh, okay, I have to work a little harder at home so they can hear me, like a cell phone with bad reception. But I'm recognizing that, you know what, when you've got these high quality mics in your own house, absolutely, they've got to be sound treated. And then you got to just relax in front of the thing so that you can get the most out of it. The mic will do pretty much all of the work for you. There's no need to project. That's
right.
getting a little into performance, but just to share with you my experience.
Awesome. And you know what? If you're on it right now, it sounds exceptional. I'd like to be looking at a scope to see what it's, if that's coming through Zoom that good, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure
Fantastic.
is. And now it's the position is up to the side. It's like to my left and up angled. And now it's interesting. Let me just try something. So right now, how does it sound like right now? Because my mouth is actually turned slightly to the right.
Like
it sounds like a little bit. I think it sounds like that your mouth is turned away.
It does. Right. Okay. So, and then here's the sweet spot right here, isn't it? See, that's interesting. So now I got a question for you guys. I want to be able to turn my head. Do I
Too
just
bad.
Yeah,
Too bad. Good luck with that. That's what they call peripheral vision.
Yeah. Is there a position for this thing that allows me to just be a little bit more flexible, maybe straight on as opposed to off to the side?
What do you think, Eric?
This is my thing that I always say, always go for the performance. The off mic, no one's not going to hire you or accept the take because it was slightly off mic. In the studio, I'll get an amazing read and it was off mic, and the engineer will be like, "Oh, it's wrong." I'll say, "Play it back," and if it's good enough, it's effing good enough. And because they're replicating that performance, you're never going to get it back. Sometimes I'll say, "Okay, play that back," and we'll record it not off mic. But it's just always it's performance, man. Like I don't know, if you get too wrapped up in things like the engineering stuff, again, it's you kind of, now your brain is in that zone. So
So you don't think that's a big deal? Because I remember way back when, there were a lot of producers that I worked with that were really anal about the top versus bottom heavy track. If you were too far panned to the right of your microphone, and the shift feels on the file in front of you, you can see yourself left or right of the mic. Versus in stereo, where they like to be able to, we record everything in mono, as you know, typically, right? So do you find that isn't a big deal anymore? People don't care if they have to readjust to left and to right to get a balanced mono read or whatever out, if you're off like this, off to the side of the mic?
It just depends.
I think you're talking relatively, if I might jump in. I think you're saying that relatively speaking, if there are portions that are slightly off mic, as a person would in a character in a real situation,
right? Then who cares?
And that there could be a way to
can't be
correct that
consistently right. It can't be consistently, off mic. But I don't know. I just think it just depends.
Really?
I mean, to me, a amazing performance trumps all. It's just if it's a really shitty performance recorded perfectly, it still
doesn't matter.
What a good point.
Yeah, you got to get the gig anyways. Hey, great block. Xavier, thank you for jumping in. Eric, thank you. Bev and Stacy and you listeners out there and watchers over YouTube. Let's go ahead and do this and get the show wrapped up. It's time for Who's That Voice? What do you think?
This week's Who's That Voice is sponsored by...
I'm Stacy Barrow, and I'm the imaging voice here on VO Radio, as well as a feature contributor. My feature is Top of Mind, where I talk about what's top of mind for those who are new to VO. I do all different types of voiceover, and I'm also bilingual in English and Spanish. I truly love all things voiceover, and I definitely love to talk about it. So reach out to me anytime here at VO Radio Online, or you can also find me at voiceoversbystacy.com. Who's that voice?
I beg your pardon.
Do you have a knack for knowing a voice? Can you recognize a voice with your eyes closed?
Oh, I just rescued a tiger.
VO Radio wants to give you a chance to win free coaching, online courses, and other great stuff.
Greetings, Earthlings.
Listen to Let's Talk VO and VO2B for the weekly voice of the day.
There's a secret mission.
Then fill out the Who's That Voice contest entry, and you'll be added into our weekly drawing on the Let's Talk VO Live the following Monday.
I think that I've lived like 3 lives.
Now let's test your ability to recognize a voice with this week's Who's That Voice?
All right, I want to say thank you to Jay, who wrote in just now asking and commenting, hey guys, this is great. I can't believe I've never discovered VO Radio. This is an awesome tool. Thank you so much for the knowledge and wisdom you guys are sharing from your decades of experience. Well, thank you very much. I can only say that I would hope one day to be able to be as comfortable in the microphone as all of you sound. Your tips are very useful. Thank you so much, Jay. So thank you, Jay. Appreciate that feedback, man. All right, let's go for it. Here we go. So we're going to play this Who's That Voice? You are going to take a listen to it. We're going to play it twice, and you're going to tell us if we got the correct Who's That Voice set up. And then if I do this right, I got the right one queued in, I hope. If not, I really messed up. We're going to let you know what you need to do on the back side of it. So here we go. Hopefully I got this brought in. Hint, hint. Here we go.
Let's think our whole family packed together on a long, slow trip across country.
Blast from the past.
Yeah.
Let's think our whole family packed together on a long, slow trip across country.
Well, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go with that because you don't know the answer any differently than we know it here on our agenda. But if you know who that is, you can be entered into the contest. So I accept both of those, that particular voice and the one we ran Monday and Wednesday. Good thing you guys are volunteers around here. Anyways, the reality is we're going to give you an opportunity now. If you know that voice, go to the contest form on the website, fill out the form, and fill out the correct answer to that one and or the one we played Monday and Wednesday. Now, here's the catch. If you are not sure of Monday, Wednesday, or today's, you can listen to it again by listening to the rebroadcast on demand of Monday and Wednesday's Let's Talk VO Live. And in about 12 hours, today's, YouTube replay of this entire broadcast over YouTube. And then you can pick and choose which one you want to submit. So we will draw the winner on Monday, and we will use both of those drawings combined and see if who's the winner is going to be this time around. So, hey, want to wrap things up with this VO2B. So as usual, we go around the horn and give everybody a chance to say their final thoughts. Let's start with you, Bev Standing. Final thoughts today.
My final thought today is simple. Everything you say, everything you put on the internet, everything people hear from you, whether it be text or verbal, is remembered. So be kind, even when you are giving constructive criticism. It doesn't have to be mean. And check your facts. If you're out there saying things are such and such, and they're not, you're the one that looks wrong. So just remember that.
Well said. Well said. Stacia Barrow, final thoughts?
Okay. Well, a couple of thoughts. Spinning off what Bev just said, yes, kindness is everything, and taking the time with people. And look how that ended up. Eric Cifuentes took the time with me to talk to me. And I don't remember, well, I try to remember all the virtual coffees, but some stand in, out in my mind even more. And, as we were talking, there were so many different things that made an impression on me and helped me along the way. And look, he's here with us. It's so awesome. So also, don't get caught up in, everyone can talk tech for hours and hours, and it depends where you are personally, monetarily, on your journey, and all that stuff. So like Eric said, it's all about the performance. So it's the love of the craft and perfecting your craft and your acting and your heart and your soul and all the special magic that you put in it. So don't get all caught up in which microphone and all that, because who you are is going to shine through in your performance.
Wow, that's a great, wise thought. And you're how many years only in? 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, in between
You're
4 and 5.
learning quickly. You must be listening to a lot of VO radio.
That's right.
Final thoughts. Xavier Paul, if you're still with us, what's your final thoughts, brother?
Well, I'm going to remind everyone and myself to take advantage of the amazing journey that is voiceover. It's an amazing learning journey. After 30 years of doing this, I'm still learning and leveling up and opening up fresh new avenues, and let that be an inspiration for people, because it certainly is an inspiration to me. I think you have to make a decision to be a great student, to don't do it the way you might have done it in college, trying to cram and, look for the crib notes and, get somebody else to write your term paper. It doesn't work in voiceover. It's right. You can't skim and skimp here. You got to really get into it. And that's what I decided to do, studying and continuing to coach and all that stuff. And that's what's kept it so exciting. I'm having a renaissance that they told me that I'd never have. They said I was washed. They said I was washed up, Anthony. They said,
my gosh.
That's what they said to me.
Those pipes.
They said, you're the you need new glasses guy. You'll never work in trailers.
Oh my
And
God.
I proved them wrong, baby. Yes, I did.
Yes, you did, for sure. And that's so funny. Anybody listening out there, you can definitely hear what he's saying for sure. This industry is about continual education. I don't care if you've been in business 5 years, 2 years, or 20 years, or 35 years, like some of us old sardines. It's never ending training and learning and recertification. I have a friend of mine who is a respiratory therapist, and every 3 years, he has to, I think it's every 3 years, he has to recertify. And that means he has to learn about the new machines, the new gadgets, the new whatever coming out, because there's all kinds of new techniques and training and certifications that go into the medical industry. The same thing happens in the voiceover industry. You never, they say, who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? So the reality is you definitely want, right? Raise their hand. Anyways, hey, thanks. Let's go ahead and have Eric, our guest today, Eric Cifuentes, give us your final thoughts, man.
I think everyone said it. I totally agree with what everyone said as far as I love the kindness note. Absolutely. It's just life's too short to be an asshole, I think. You have to deal with assholes too. The tech stuff, yeah, there's just people get overwhelmed in VO, especially starting off. Just focus on the craft. Absolutely what Stacy was saying. Focus on your love for acting, for storytelling. It's not just about zany voices. It's about telling a story, making characters come alive. And one last thing that is coming to mind, just because I've been dealing with it a lot, and just maybe an enticing idea for a future conversation is AI. So if you guys are interested in talking about that, I've worked in AI, and things are rapidly changing for the good and for not so good. So it's a fun conversation to have as well, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions about it. So
definitely, and that we've actually had conversation with Tim Friedlander and quite a few people over the AI recently, and that's a big concern of a lot of voiceover talent you can imagine. So we're definitely on top of that. Bev Standing was one of the first pioneers. The story about Bev, but she is one of the pioneers who set the whole industry looking in the right direction. So we definitely want to look at that. And actually, I was just talking the other day, and won't name drop who it was, about having a panel, a VO radio show dedicated, and having a panel talk about AI from all over the industry. So we're definitely doing that. So you're welcome to join us for that, for sure. I'd love to get your feedback from a gaming perspective as well. So absolutely. That's great that you thought of that. Hey, let's wrap things up. Don't forget about the show Monday and Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Let's Talk VO. Simulcast through the VO radio platform, live 5 p.m. Monday and Wednesday. And of course, next Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern will be our next VO Tubi. A little bit of programming change. We're going to change the format just a bit, but it'll be a great show from this point forward. So make sure to check that out. Make sure to go to the website. Don't forget, Wednesday, our guest is Corey Rhymes on Let's Talk VO at 5 p.m. Eastern. Corey Rhymes of the VO Academy. Can't wait to hear what Corey has to share with us. So other than that, have yourself a good one. Thanks for listening and watching this VO Tubi here on VO Radio.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks
Bye,
for
everybody.
having me. That was super fun, guys.